Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. This is our study session for the City Council in the City of Shelbyville. And the first thing that I will ask for will be public comments. Anyone have a public comment? If you would just come up to the microphone and tell us what you would like to say. Anyone?
There wasn't anyone signed up, Mr. Mayor. I don't believe there's any comments.
Okay, all right. Then we'll start with our staff reports, and I will ask our city manager, Scott Collins, to give us an update.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a few things I want to touch on, just points of information. The Railroad Authority has been trying for over a decade to give land, in essence, to the city for a Rails to Trails program. At their most recent meeting on Thursday, they notified us that they cannot do the banking of the rails until the city council commits to taking over the maintenance of the rails to trails. And our Parks and Recreation Director, our Public Works Director, both of them has been consulting on this. And the estimated cost initially for us to take over the rails to trails, the recommendation would be an additional staff member at approximately $44,900, and also the contract, supplies, equipment at approximately $45,000. In addition to that, we will also have the cost of the banking itself, and what that is, it allows us the use of the trails right away, but it puts it in reserve in case a rail line ever wants to come back through. But that cost would be approximately $25,000, and I asked the Railroad Authority if they would be covering that cost, and they said no, that would be a cost to the city. And this right now is just a point of information, unless you all want to move it on. But being that the county is also going to benefit so significantly if we do this connector, I think additional discussions need to be had, and where the city does not bear the sole responsibility of it, because there's been very limited maintenance on the trails for the past several years. And so it's going to take significant cleanup. And if y'all like, again, our Parks and Rec Director, Mike Ossoff, has been working diligently on this. Mike, would you like to say a couple of comments, sir? If I catch you with a piece of chewing gum?
Sure. Yeah, it just came from Park Board. So anyway, yeah, it's a great opportunity for us to have this rail line. It connects the east side of town to the west side of town. Later in the agenda, we have a recommendation for a design firm for the Trails and Greenways master plan. With the master plan and the property for the rail line in hand, the transportation grants are out there, pretty available. And then also it's right along the corridor with a number of our businesses, and it would be in our favor to go and talk to them and see if they would also contribute to the construction of the trail. Very likely that we could get a lot of that done without direct cost to the city. So to have the opportunity to have a connector that connects east and west sides of town like this they don't come very often. So it would be really in our favor to take advantage of this.
Are we getting a grant for that part of that, Mike?
The Trails and Greenways master plan is covered under a grant, so that's not costing the city anything.
Okay.
Once we get that in place, and we really wouldn't even have to wait for that to completely be done, we could start applying for grants for the rail line, through the rails to trails.
Any questions?
If I could, let me just add some context for you all. Particularly our newer folks, the Railroad Authority is made up of 3 local governments. That's Bedford County, the City of Shelbyville, and Wartrace. They simply do not have the money to do the maintenance on this. And so I think they first asked back in 2012, and then they asked again about 2 years ago. And so it's logical, obviously, that the city does it. It's within the city, limits to do the type of trail. But the reason we're not getting the land in terms of the city of Shelbyville, understand that how all our federal laws work on the railroad, it has to remain the railroad. If the railroad ever truly abandons it and allowed by the federal government to abandon it, it will go back to the landowner's user on either side of the rail line. So that's why the federal government came up with this whole scheme in which you bank the road, bank the right of way. So you don't actually have to abandon it, but you keep it basically in perpetuity. So I know for the Railroad Authority, those of our representatives, Gary's representative on our, for the city and the mayor. It's an issue for the Railroad Authority and the three governments because they really need it off their plate, if you want to put it that way. But somebody has to step up and do the cost and pay the money for that. So I just thought I'd give you that scenario. In one way, it helps the city as well as the county of Wartrace taking it off their plate.
Thank you.
I have two questions. One is, are we planning, if we take this, is the plan to pave a walkway all the way or in concrete or asphalt?
Yes, that would be the plan. That would be what we'd propose in
Like
a
10
grant,
feet wide or 8 feet wide or something?
probably at least 10 feet wide.
How will we handle all of our intersections? Will we just put white crosswalks or how would that, because there's a lot of roads it crosses over.
Right, there'd be crosswalks, there would be signage, on the trails that I've done, we've had our, bicyclists and pedestrians to stop and not depend on cars to stop. I know personally, when I'm riding my bike, even if I had the right of way, I'm watching, but yes, intersections would be dealt with, paved trail would be what, we would be applying for.
And we can pay, we just can't build a structure.
Mm-hmm. Right. The old rail line would come up and we'd have that taken to the metal recycle and the cross ties would come up. Rework the gravel base and then pave on top of that.
Thank you.
What's the county's stance on this? We're paying,
It's all in the city what we're doing, but good question, Bobby. Scott, you know anything on that? I don't think we've discussed it at the Railroad Authority at all, the county being part of it, have we?
You've not talked about the county being a partner in the Rails to Trails when you said about what the county thinks about it. I don't know about the full commission. Now, your county reps that sit on that board are all for because they voted before to allow the city to take it. So the representatives from the county on the Rails Authority have said that. I don't know how much all the, county is.
Okay. All right, Scott.
And that includes Mayor Brown.
Okay, the next item is for a point of information. We're having our kickoff meeting Thursday at 10:00 a.m. with Retail Strategies. That'll be to lay the groundwork for our year-long program where they will coach us up and assist us in the recruitment of retail entities to the city. The next item, we had a few emails going back and forth today. Our airport director, Paul Perry, is working with engineering firms representing MTSU. And the meetings are beginning to kick off with utility coordination. Of course, you all know this is a long process and trying to get all of the utility entities around one table is going to be a challenge. But I just want to let y'all know that process is moving forward. And lastly, under the city manager update, I would just like to request that we have an agenda item added to the business meeting for November 9th. And that'll be in reference to the attorney client privileged email I sent you all last week to discuss, action on local option sales tax. And that's all I have at this time, Mayor.
Any comments, council? Thank you, Scott. All right, we're not gonna give you much of a break. We're gonna now go to our discussion items, and number one on that discussion item, Scott, if you take that consideration of assistant city manager or an economic developer position.
Thank you, Mayor. This was discussed at length during our 2-hour workshop last couple of weeks. And you all were presented on Friday 2 different job descriptions. One for an assistant city manager and the other one for economic development director. And we would like to present this at the November 9th meeting, and would like to know city council's preference or have a good discussion on what direction you all would like to see us go with this.
Well, we actually passed the hire an economic developer. Although I worded it wrong. I don't want to mess with our charter. But yet, so I would want it to be changed to economic developer consultant. But that was actually passed last month. I'm sure we have to be re-voted on next Thursday because it's worded different. I would ask that be voted on next Thursday.
We certainly can clear up.
Clear up that.
It's just really
So the
clarify
charter will
exactly
be
how that
involved in
works, that you'd want a consultant. And I do think you all need, if you want to go the consultant route, we need to talk about the term, how long you want to start off with a consultant, what type of experience, what, that you might want, because Lori Sadler's gonna have to craft us a request for qualifications or proposal for that. So
Any other
if that's what
questions?
you wanna do, now's a good time to talk about those things right now.
The only thing I would like to change to that would be to, that the, position you filled by the, council and city manager.
You all would have to vote on a consultant, yeah. Those proposals would come to you.
Anyone else? Okay,
So-
Scott?
So for clarification, just go ahead and discard these proposals. And we're going with the consultant proposal, which would be an RFP. Is that what the full RFQ, is that what the council's wishes are?
I've got a couple comments on either one of these positions. When you focused on a salary here in your report and memo, there's a lot of expenses and a lot of time that are not covered maybe under a salary. An economic developer, is he gonna have a car? There's what expenses for moving around. I assume he's not gonna be sitting there waiting for a phone to ring. They don't sit in the office very long. So there's a lot of other expenses involved than just paying somebody and expect manna from heaven. So there's
So you're
those kind of things you gotta bring in more than just a salary.
looking for a department, sort of a department budget, is what you're referring, okay?
Even if there actually has an individual that comes in out of town to relocate them, that type of thing as well?
That'd be my desire.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've never worked economic development through an outside third-party consultant. So I'm going to defer to Ginger and Vice Mayor and you all.
Well, tonight you all just need to really talk about, I mean, staff drafted you 2 proposals. If you like them, please speak up, sort of get a feel for it. Mr. Christie has said what he proposes going back to consultant, but we need to know what those terms are. Otherwise, Lori's gonna have to come back to you a month later with, hey, here's a couple of RFQs I've come up with. So, you know, what are the qualifications that you're looking for a consultant? You know, how many years of experience do you want it? You want to try them for 6 months? You'll try them for a year? What is it?
I didn't vote for the economic development director, so I've expressed my opinion before, the assistant city manager is the way to go, and I still believe that these, out of these two proposals, the assistant city manager makes more sense. We've got a city manager who's almost within a few hours of his degree or certification, they call it, in economic development, and let him handle the coordination with the economic development. So, I've said before, and I still believe that. That's why I like the assistant city manager side of this, proposal.
Okay. Mr. Christie has stated his position and anyone else have a position? Which way would you like to go? Economic development director and consultant? Or assistant city manager? Anybody want to speak up?
Are there particular issues, City Manager Collins, that you may express to the council that you seem to have more issues dealing with on a day-to-day basis, to where you're feeling that you're needing this assistance?
Yes, ma'am. You know, I have a folder full of great ideas that I picked up from you all over the past year, individually, collectively. And that's just it. There's still a folder. Because, for example, today, I spent time researching a restaurant complaint and had to notify a citizen on how to contact Tennessee Department of Health, because the city doesn't do that. We've had a lot of work on our IT with our YouTube channel. We've had several issues. I've had 2 or 3 calls today on planning and zoning issues. I've had multiple calls on building codes issues. So that more or less is my day, Monday through Friday, is dealing with either citizens issues or property maintenance issues, building codes issues, zoning approvals, just several things. I listed some of them vaguely in here, but it takes up a lot of time. And of course, I'm a public servant, so I'm not complaining. But again, I've heard so many great ideas from you all that I would like to get to work on and try to implement a few of them. But unfortunately, the day-to-day just takes the vision away.
Would you say that if the departments were more equipped with the help they're needing, the personnel they're needing, the strong department heads, would that take away from your attention to that particular department?
We have exceptional department heads, and they do take a lot off of my plate. Public Works, Fire, Police, zoning, building codes, all of it. They do an exceptional job, but so many times people want to talk directly to the city manager.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mayor.
the mayor gets a lot.
I'm sending them to Scott a lot of times.
So I don't know that, you know, I would like to have more time to be able to sit down on a regular basis individually with the department leaders and be able to really get a feel of what their needs are. Now, we do quite a bit. I mean, again, we've got such exceptional leaders here on the department level that it's just phenomenal. Doggone it, I had Buck and Matt in my office at the same time today. But, no, and, you know, there are just so many, and everything's important. You know, that's the frustrating part of it, Councilwoman, because whoever's on that phone calling with their concern, that's the most important thing to them at that moment.
Right.
And if we had to have just to work through them issues better, it'd be more favorable. But now, I would certainly, whatever this council decides, we'll do. I mean, it's easy. It's night and day. You tell us which direction to go and we'll do it, but we just need a clear consensus on where you want us to go.
An assistant, will he work under you?
Yes, sir, directly.
Yeah, I said before, a citizen called up here and they're mad that trash is piled up waist deep, there's 14 cars. That man right there, don't get me wrong, I know he's gotta be nice to them, but he's not the codes man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can see where, but I'll give him credit. I said it last time. You call old Scotty about a matter, buddy, before the end of the day, he'll tell you, you know, I went by there and you're exactly right, but that's not what he did. That didn't, to me, that, I mean, I may be wrong, that's not. Where if he had an assistant, all that stuff could go to, let me put you on hold. To hand it to somebody else, you know what I'm saying? I'm not, and that may be wrong. But that'd be something.
No matter what direction the council does decide to do, we're gonna have a lot of challenges. Getting Shelbyville back at the top of the list
Yep.
as far as contacts for economic development. Whether it's a third-party consultant that may be deep in Nashville, I don't know. But a prime example is there's an annual reception coming up, and the Commissioner of Economic and Community Development is gonna be the keynote speaker for it. And none of us are gonna be there at this time. None of us are gonna be there. So that means whether the consultant, myself, or an economic director, the natural connection's gonna have to be renewed. A lot of work, starting, we're blessed with Pat Marsh and Shane Reeves. Right there before we start to get our foot in the door, we've got to continue to cultivate the relationships. And we've got a great opportunity here because retail strategies will help significantly. They'll be a big help, but we've got to have the follow up and follow through.
My personal opinion is, that Scott is having to handle economic development. And, of course, I'm involved in that too, as well as being the city manager. And so, I would recommend that we go with a consultant economic developer, position first. I would recommend we go to Scott that way. I just think that we need a person that's gonna be working that, and I have worked with a lot of them in the counties that we serve, Duck River Electric, and I think that's where we need to go, and that will relieve Scott of that part of it. And, that way he can handle more of the, being the manager over the city. That's my personal opinion.
If we don't tie ourselves up forever, Scott's gonna be watching how this process is gonna be operated.
Absolutely.
If it's not to your. I mean,
We
if it's
can
not
always
what you
change.
think, Yeah.
We can always change.
We move on.
That's right.
We move on.
And after you get your, the other classes there, we can always make a move at that point, if we need to, if we need to.
So when we launched this with retail strategies, I stepped back totally and let the third-party consultant handle all that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My recommendation.
We've heard from Jenny. Is there anybody else that wants to help give staff direction tonight? Or really should your agenda item be just economic developer? You've got an employee description, you have an assistant manager description, and we can also always do it as a consultant using that job description. You know, Mr. Christie, I was talking to you about the qualifications and what Lori would do in RFQ. I suppose she could massage that and use that.
I need to know, Mayor, with your experience in Duck River, what companies did you all work with? Did you have any recommendations?
Oh, gosh, we work with Tennessee Department of Economic Development, Middle Tennessee Industrial Development Association, TVA, all of those different folks that we worked with. And of course, I was, my job was a key accounts coordinator at the end there, executive, whatever you want to call it. and working with all those largest industries and things like that, and working with the chambers and, the industrial recruiters and economic development. Each county has a little different of how, what they call them and what they use them for and things like that. But,
My mistake, I didn't know you was talking about other government entities. I thought you was talking about a consulting company.
No, I'm talking about individual.
Yeah.
Only reason I put consultant on the end is because I wanted just an economic developer to come in here and so Shelbyville will be.
yes,
It'd be a consultant, it would be a
Who would be-
contract person, that's why I'm calling it.
The only reason I'm doing this is because we're no longer part of the Beverly Partnership.
right.
And Shelbyville is now over here in the dark. And we don't know, and we can, and if it's the desire of the council to stay that way, then vote it that way.
I think you all have been very clear that you want someone, it's how do you get someone?
How do we get it?
Do you have an employee, which is hired by Scott, which they've given you a job description for that tonight? Do you do it in the form of a consultancy where you could put a 6-month or a year or two? We talked about that in advance. That would be an individual that you all hire. You go through the RFP process. So
If
that's,
you let Scott handle it, you would just be, as far as I'm concerned, just a economic developer, but an
but they'd
experience.
be an employee.
That has a track record of bringing industry to their city that they've worked at before. That's my preference.
Yeah.
But, only because instead we're sitting over on the side with our hands.
Right. I think y'all been very clear you want someone.
absolutely.
It's just that you don't, what form? Are they going to be a consultant in which the council gets to actually make that decision and vote on who that individual's going to be, or do you wish to have an employee?
I would recommend the consulting route and for the city council to hire them
Let the
if that's,
council, yeah.
if that's how you want to go.
I don't want you to feel like you don't say nothing, cause you're gonna be
Oh, yeah.
smarter, you're gonna be smarter and more qualified than anybody we probably, if we hire somebody. You're probably gonna be leaps and bounds above the person that comes in here. You just say, well, hey, y'all hired him, let him rip. No.
We'll all work together as a team just like we do now.
The consultant would obviously on a day-to-day basis have to work with Scott, even though
That's
you
right.
all hire the person.
Right.
They have to take some direction from Scott.
Right.
They have to, you all can't meet every day. Do that, so.
What you wanna do, Scott? Well, in a perfect world, what's your recommendation?
Sir, I'll vote Shelby.
Oh, Lord.
Well, let's don't confuse the issue. Let's move forward with this consultant and let's look at that and go from there. That's what I'm getting. Do you agree, folks? Do you got any opinions on?
Which one would you like?
If it's okay, since we're putting an item on the agenda and since we've had so much discussion about it, I'd kind of like to go around the table and just make sure, is a consultant okay with you? You're not voting, you're just saying,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm okay with you putting that on the agenda as a consultant position instead of an employee position. You tell me nod, no, no.
Can I ask one question? When you say consultant, are we talking about an individual or a firm?
Mr. Christie said
Okay.
he's talking about an
I'm just
individual.
making sure everybody's got.
Yeah.
I'm
and
talking
You feel like
about
to live here,
hiring
work here, have an office here.
an individual.
It's like Henry said, now you gotta remember, he's not gonna be set, so you gotta make sure that his mileage and expenses, and all that's gotta be
Right.
part of it.
Well, and I would say that would be what your RFQ or RFP would entail, is you've got to have that individual sort of tell you how I'm gonna run this and what I need to run it. And here's what it's gonna cost you.
Right.
And I would check $300,000 is what I imagine you're gonna say.
Maybe. Maybe. Folks? That's a chair squeaking, not me. Are we going with a consultant, an individual to work for the city of Shelbyville on doing RFP? Is that what we're gonna do?
RFQ, request for qualifications.
And you mentioned for them to establish an office within the city of Shelbyville.
I think so. I mean, they're if we're gonna do this, they would be the contact person for any industry or business that wants to come to Shelbyville, would they not?
Yeah.
And now, this is just mine, there's six, and, everybody's been pretty quiet, the discussion, this is what this is for. I mean, Henry's voice his opinion, and mine is opposite, but at least we voice our opinion. Now's the time for everybody to.
And we've gotta move forward.
I think the best is to not say what you're gonna do, is to put it on as economic developer. And whoever makes the motion for whatever they come up with, that'll be, because we don't have a clear direction tonight.
Is that your legal suggestion and advice, or is that an opinion?
Hmm?
Is that an opinion, or is that legal advice?
Legal advice, because you don't have a particular direction tonight. No, normally Lisa's trying to be more specific on your agenda. So if you don't know exactly which direction you're gonna go, you can just put something on as far as that y'all will make a motion, on how to hire, an economic developer.
Well, I'm in favor for, city recorder Lisa to ask what she needs and to try to get it from this council tonight. I think that's her call. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Good. You're good.
Out of
Good.
step, but I
Well,
think that depends on our report.
To expand on what Ginger's saying, I think normally when I put an agenda together, I get a reading from the council at the study session based on which way y'all are going. So then I would make a agenda item that would say, consideration of a motion to let RFQs for an economic consultant,
Right.
like Mr. Christie has said. But I'm not getting a reading from you. Mr. Christie said one thing, Mr. Feldhouse had said something else. Mr. Turnbow, I kind of get, maybe he's for the, it's assistant city manager to take some pressure off of Scott, and then the mayor's voiced his opinion. So if I put on the agenda a motion to hire or to let an RFQ for economic developer, then that's a specific motion that maybe Mr. Christie will make, but then it may not go any further than that. While maybe you want to hire an assistant city manager, but that's not gonna be on the agenda. So I think what Ginger's saying is I could put a general motion, which I've done before. When I don't get a reading at the study session and I don't know which way to go, then I would just put a general motion on the agenda that said consideration of a motion to move forward with economic development by what means the council sees fit. And then somebody would make a motion and we would vote from there and see how it goes. It's really kind of silly, but it's kind of like, a technicality kind of thing.
It's
Whether
not
the
to put
motion
a
is
problem on the
specific or
agenda.
whether the motion is just general.
Because I get the sense that maybe some of you have not made up your mind yet.
And can I make another comment? It may be to my detriment, but I feel like it needs to be said. The Lord said that He's humble and proud. And believe me, throughout my career, I've been humble. I've lost one job that I enjoyed, I was fired from. But also during my career, and here's where I've got to be careful because I don't want to sound too braggy or arrogant. But I have worked with teams that took a strip pit coal mine in East Tennessee that a disaster occurred with loss of life, and it was supposed to have been Carroll's Industrial Park. And we had a 100-foot hole in the middle of what was supposed to be our industrial park. We got a team. We went to Washington, D.C. We sat down with senators. We sat down with congressmen. We got $2.5 million back in the 90s for the infrastructure. And now That industrial park has at least 6 entities in, employing over 1,000 people.
Mhm.
We've taken other projects where property values $34,000. As a team, we worked through economic development project with community livabilities, and all of a sudden property went from 34,000 to 104,000. So I just say this because I do not have the 30 years experience hands-on that some do. But at the same time, I have been at the table from DC to Nashville to boardrooms like this where I love. So tonight, all I'm asking is let me know what you all want so Lisa can do it. We've been kicking this ball around for
Right.
4 or 5 months.
Time to make a
And
decision.
Vice Mayor got on me. He's like, we need to make a move. So please guide us and we'll make the move, but we need to know where y'all are coming from.
We got too much experience sitting right there to go hire somebody else. Get him an assistant that can watch out for things while he's out. And he's not, this is not gonna be, Scott, you quit doing your city manager job. This is, you'll have somebody under you and if you've got something going on, that's fine. That's what he's there for, or she's there for. But to me, it don't make sense to not use him. I mean, he's an employee. His credentials are outstanding. Get him some help and let's go. And that's my opinion. You know, I mean, if I could do it right now, I'd hire an assistant city manager. I'd hire an assistant. He's too good to not use him. He's got too many contacts, got too many knowledge for us not to be using him. I mean, that's my opinion.
So you're saying that Scott run with the economic development?
Not entirely. He's the city manager, but
Number one.
yeah, he's a city manager, number one, but he's gonna have an assistant, and if he has something else on his plate, the city manager, assistant city manager, be there to keep the place running. The world's not gonna come to an end.
So all commercial or industrial
Yeah, he'll work with that.
contact would still be coming through Shane.
No. He
No,
goes to that man,
once
he's
we
not there.
start, and remember the development team too, that we're all gonna be bringing about. That's got utilities representatives on it, it's got county representatives on it, it's going to, of course, have our key department staff.
I
But
think
it's
that's
all,
fair. So will you still lead the, partnership on it?
that's up to the council. With retail strategies and with making, in cultivating relationships in Nashville, we can do this.
Well, Marilyn, how do you and Gary feel about Bobby's
I just commented, I agree, Mr.
degree? Henry does, but that's almost half, and I'll just rescind mine. Take mine off the table.
Oh, I agree with a lot of what I'm hearing. I do. But this is not a moment for, if this is voted for, Mr. Collins to get the assistant and, whatever direction. This is not the moment for Mr. Collins to be the socialite. I understand you're a big fan of the conferences and the meetings with all of the big wigs at the table. But that's not to cut out and say, I have to, and I have to, and I have to. I mean, you're still the city manager if you were also promoted into that role of economic development in any shape, form, or fashion.
Councilwoman, I fully understand
Yeah.
that.
I know you're a big fan of conferences.
Tennessee City Manager Association this week that I canceled. I did not go to it, even though 3 of the sessions were on economic development. But there was a couple of citizens issues we needed to take care of, so I went back and focused on get some of these issues addressed.
And speaking of which, these conferences, of course, are paid by the city, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
it seems like, I know I can speak for me, but I wasn't aware of, a recent meeting that was planned. And again, this is taxpayer money, and the council certainly needs to know when the city manager is off at a conference and that type of thing, I would think.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I could definitely step up communication on that. So that's where the contacts are made. Now, you mentioned socialization and stuff. I won't be on the city's ticket playing 18 holes or anything like that. But now I may use a little vacation time, pay my own rent, and cultivate a relationship to try to get us an entity.
Scott, I have a question. What price range are you perceiving that as assistant city manager? Also, they'll have all the benefits of any city employee, right?
Yeah, it's on the
Yes.
agenda proposed packet tonight.
Oh, I don't think I have yet.
Yes, it would be in the range, and this is in accordance to the pay scale that the HR is currently using, and it's in the range of 58,000 and changed up to 84,000. I called around some other cities and some city managers and administrators that I know, and the going rate, and it's hard because not all towns have them, but the average is around 70, 75 for an assistant city manager. Now, for an economic development director, it's more challenging because most of them are county, city groupings, and salary was significant higher. I mean, from personal experience, a city I worked with that is about 1/4 our size, and the county has a population of around 35,000. They're paying their economic developer 110,000.
No. Wow. I favor city, assistant city manager. But that's it, that's just my opinion.
And I have no problem if you want to conference if it's needed.
Yeah.
Oh,
If it's gonna bring back, information that's gonna move us ahead, I have a problem.
We got other department heads going big fine meetings all over the country. There ain't no need you not going nowhere.
so now I'm selective in the ones I go to because I do understand I'm a public servant and I'm using city taxpayers' money, so I want to get the bang for the buck.
Yes.
I'm always going to bring something back to benefit our city. Just like when we went to the TML conference, we were all out there working, and it was beneficial. That's how Shelbyville gets appear in the eyes of the decision makers.
At least from the head count I see, you might as well just, that's what you put the city manager, assistant city manager on.
Well,
That's it.
I do not want to alienate anybody. And I feel like a couple's mad here, so let's please talk. My number one priority is serve you as your city manager. So if you've got an issue with what I'm proposing, please, let's talk about it because I want to stay city manager. Or let's start negotiations now.
I'm not opposed to putting 2 items on the agenda, but then I have to decide which one comes first. So
No, you putting it on. You got 3 that are saying you.
I do have 3
I have a
that
feeling that.
have voiced that the
Assistant-
Majority.
city
And I want
manager.
to, I'd like to see unified council from now on, and let's go forward.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
Sounds like we'll put that on there that way.
okay. All right, the next item is 2 new staff positions for property maintenance inspectors. Scott?
As we discussed in the property maintenance issues, we've heard you all, and we know there's a lot of issues with it. Our city treasurer wrote up an estimated cost to hire 2 additional property maintenance inspectors. But at this time, I would like to recommend we try it with 1 additional, because I saw your email, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and I know each and every one of you are really cost conscious. So especially we're in almost to the midpoint of our budget year. So why don't we try it with 1 and see if there's improvements? And if not, we'll either revisit the way we're doing things, or we'll make a proposal. If it's totally overloaded on the personnel, bring the proposal back for the second position.
And I think we've discussed before, and I met the new gentleman this afternoon that's taking Albert's place, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we've got 2 inspectors and you, Brian, as the,
That is correct.
as director, okay?
That would allow us for 1 property maintenance inspector to focus on 2 wards, like, they can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we know we're gonna need an additional residential building inspector, but we're not quite there yet. Is that correct, Brian? We still need more time.
Yes, sir, I would agree.
Why don't we defer until we get this other, whatever it is, the inspector you're talking about, hiring anybody.
Excuse me,
Anybody else have comments on that? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
we have discussed that we need those property maintenance individuals there. I'm not sure I fully understand defer, because it's taking time for what Brian is concentrating on with all of the rooftops, and for someone to be certified enough to be on their own to do what he is doing.
Right. Is that what we're working on hiring? I mean, how many, he got, there's 3 of them now?
Yes, 1 newly hired, but we only have 1 building, commercial and residential inspector in our director. The other 2 are currently property maintenance inspectors, with 1 of them working on his certification to be a building inspector. So, Councilman, what we're asking now is to allow us 1 property maintenance. And while the 1 employee is finishing his certification, and we're probably a few months away from that because that's challenging. It's a very difficult test. But this would allow us to really turn it up on property maintenance issues.
Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I like the idea of hiring at least 1 of them to get started, because we need to clean up this town badly.
Yes, we do.
If we do anything for economic development that helps anything, is to clean up this.
That's right.
I don't really necessarily like the idea of only focusing on a couple of wards.
Yeah.
But we need to get started somewhere. I thought our existing codes were in place to help clean up, but apparently they're so busy doing other things, we can't get the maintenance issues done. So let's hire at least 1 person and let's start cleaning things up.
Well,
Henry, when you hear, I had an old-time city employee tell me the other day about there used to be a guy, they had a nickname for him. He had an old police car, and he rode around, and it was code violation enforcer or something. That's all he did every day, was ride.
That's when we only had like 1 code enforcement. That's what I thought our code
Fans that
enforcement
called him, he had a
department
nickname.
was supposed to be doing all the
Yeah,
time.
he had a
How many years
nickname.
ago was that?
I can't think of his name, but
Yep, that's all he did. He had an old police car, and they've had,
but they weren't near the building inspection and all that, wasn't even.
all he was doing was trash and cars and
Yeah.
whatever.
And we were still trashy back then.
That's what I'm saying.
Never
We,
get
hey,
cleaned up.
we sitting here and it ain't getting no better. Something gotta change.
So
The
this
number
will,
one thing, number one thing I hear, the place is nasty. I say, I agree with you. You got a good answer for it? Let me know. It is. There's no question it is.
So I'd like to see at least 1 person hired, since
That's
it's
fine.
halfway through the year.
And that's what they're gonna do every day, is work on trying to, they ain't gonna be doing nothing, code trash and cars.
with accountability too. 'Cause I
Right,
have
right.
that list now. And one of the
New
issues.
forms and things like that.
And I wish I could remember, I do know who told me this. We're great at identifying the problem.
Yep.
But seeing it from birth to death
Right.
is where we've got to step up our game, and that is gonna take a little more manpower.
Right.
If Brian, or if our director is not having to help out on property maintenance,
Yeah.
he can be more in a position to focus in on the reports he receives from the property maintenance inspectors and say, okay, where we at, where we at, where we at? Because that's what I'm gonna be asking him, because you all are asking me.
And that's where that form that you come up with, it, you see it every month, and if we want, if they can, by then start presenting it to the council every month. We had all these reports, these were the dates, these were the locations, this is action's been taken. Instead of getting one that's got all the pretty colors on it, and we did all this time, we did all that time. You know? Yeah, I'm good.
So,
Okay.
pleasure of the council to present the hiring of one position.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
Before we go forward, I would like to say, you know, we had Brian up here, had on the witness stand, he was told some ugly things, they come out in the paper, you know, but we can do one, but we need to come back, because it's not gonna get any better.
Right,
Well, absolutely,
Yeah.
right.
absolutely. And got to have some teeth to the codes. Got to have some, and we've talked about that, to get some things done. It's one thing to write it up, but something's got to be done in some of those cases. That's what I'm hearing from the council and from the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to get something done. Yeah. Any other thoughts? All right. Next item, number 3, 3 additional firefighter positions. Did somebody have something to say?
Kay does.
Mayor,
Yes.
I didn't read the bottom of the line here. Now, we would, go ahead and do the one employee, but of course, they're gonna need a vehicle also. And the estimate on that's 35,000. So altogether, you're talking about 103,000 estimate for one employee.
Okay.
Thank you, Kay.
All right. Number 3, 3 additional firefighter positions.
I'm gonna ask Chief Doak for assistance on this one.
I got, just a quick bullet points to get everybody up to speed. Don't know if we get too fast, you get under the bus.
Go, make sure everybody's got one.
You know,
This will be for me.
Okay. As we talked about before, we went through the safety process again this year. And we're really looking at it, but we did not get it. So we started in, to give the history to everybody that wasn't here, 2017 and 18, we started the construction of Fire Hall 3. 2018 and 19, we finished the construction. Actually, the department did that, with the help of Public Works. We started specing equipment. 19 and 20, we went ahead and purchased equipment. It just, because of COVID, took a year and a half to get it in. We also, at that time, focused on, we did the building, the equipment, and then had that MTAS come in and do the study for the manpower. And that was done in March of 20. And then we applied in 20 for the SAFER and were denied the SAFER and got no funding. There was no action taken, even though the manpower was agreed to. Okay, and so in 20 and 21, we again applied for the SAFER
were denied the safer. And then we, I think, well, I don't want to say who made the motion, but we started with the idea of hiring three. We couldn't get them because we were getting into our third year of being out of our recommendations. So the city funded three at that time. The next year, which was last year, we did the same thing, went through the same process. Did not get the safer, and we hired three as a budget amendment. Which is again, what we talked about early in the budget this last year or coming into this year. And so here we are without the safer. And I would like to, I'm probably not educating many people, but just remind the problem, the reason this has to be done like this is because of the timing of the safer grants. The safer grant's the only manpower grant that's available. We have difference in those types of federal monies like that was done this year with law enforcement. There's no bureaucracy like FEMA to get in the middle. And so when XYZ money from the ARP was left over, the federal government gave it to the state, and the state turned around and you applied for it, you got it from your local match. Unfortunately, the fire service does not work like that. So we never get to apply until April or May, and we never hear back until September, or year before last, it was almost January. So there's no way to do that in a budget because number one, you can't have it in your budget if you're asking for it.
Right.
But number two, it does not coincide with our program or our budget year whatsoever. So, like I said, we're 4 years into where we already agreed that we needed 12 firefighters. Okay, and we've got 6, and we're grateful for them. And I would be more than grateful for 3, even though everything about being a department head as far as responsible for the safety liabilities, I should be asking you for 6. But it would greatly help to have at least 3.
And they'll run the equipment, benefits, around each.
I didn't get the numbers back.
How much will a firefighter cost?
In our packet, it's 234,000.
234,000.
A piece.
Yeah, 78,000 a piece.
Oh, okay.
There's no way, I mean, if you had any more quit, if you had any firefighters quit y'all again,
Have I had
if you had
any?
any more quit and go somewhere else.
I've had, one quit this year.
I'm new at this, I just don't, why can't we get this figured some way, shape, form, or fashion to show up in the budget?
We
And
can
I'm
if
not
we,
saying, but I mean, cause here we are, we're in, what, 6, 7, 8 months in the budget, and they wanted 2 property people, now 3 firefighters, and animal control people.
well, and I agree, that's why I was trying to explain.
Right.
Your frustration is my frustration for 5 years, because we never get to present it in a budget because of the safer grant, which what department head doesn't want to come back to the council and go, hey, we got 100% match for the next 3 years for the additional people that every entity on earth is telling us we need. Unfortunately, it's federal, and that's the way it is now. That's why we do talk about it in the budget hearings, and when y'all were setting tax rates and we're setting the budget for the year, we do talk about it. But if we are applying for the safer, which I have been instructed to do, it can't be in that year's budget. Right, it goes against the rules of doing the safer. So, I mean, we do 3 would be great, and then, I mean, we can put the next 3 in the budget for next year, and not worry about the safer. It saved me months of.
Just as, just to let the council know, the safer grant, when Eric and Matt and them fill it out, it's very, very detailed. And they have to put in dollar figures of what they spend in their departments. And that's why it can't show up in their budget, because they're having to answer those questions, and we have to sign off on that, the information that because it is a federal grant, which all grants are very specific and all, but that one is very meticulous about the information that we have to give them. It has to be, you know, exactly what we have in our budgets.
And frankly, it's probably what has not helped us get it, because we've not even got to the narrative review. The preliminary, and when they look at the financials and all of that part of it, we never get past that. Like the point of like, why are you asking for money?
Like they don't think we
We
need
got
it.
it one time.
Yeah, we
but
got it.
Back in
We got it.
17, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2014.
And it lasted till
We
17.
got,
Okay.
it lasted till 17. So almost 10 years ago.
But here's an opportunity where we could go and actually camp out in the Congressman Desjardins' office and work through this with Chief Doak and the assistant chief and others. Because I don't, and this is no insult to anybody, but we need to be more proactive in working on our elected officials to get this money. Because yes, they look topical and say, oh, they've got money. No, we don't. Not for our needs. And that's what the federal officials need to be convinced of. And I believe we put a team together that would do it.
Any other questions for Chief Doug?
Yes, Mr. Matt, have you ever maybe done a little research? Were those municipalities that have been granted these safer grants, kind of that pattern Shelbyville? Looking at those municipalities and seeing how they got it, what made them get granted the money?
We have, to the best of our ability, to including having South Central review our grants, getting as much advice as we can on the grant writing. And all I can tell you is some of the same big players like Memphis get it every year. And then you might have a couple abstract people here and there in the state that get it. But like I said, I don't know if maybe you need a less honest fire chief. Just fill, and somebody else is gonna fill out the paper, because we do it strictly, and we watch all the videos, help videos and the question and answer sessions. It's about a 2-month process just to get through it, and then we take it to the city manager, the
Treasurer.
finance treasurer. Everybody looks at it, make sure it's correct, and then before Lisa takes it to the mayor to sign off on. Like I said, we're not getting to the narrative part to get down, into where we get really crafty about all our needs, where, for whatever reason, and to put that into perspective, there's only, of the total pot of money was 350, was that this last year, in about that much. They break you down into 1 of 3 categories by department, whether you're just a volunteer department, whether you're a combination department, or your career. So automatically that money is cut in thirds, and all of them get the same cut. And then they start picking and choosing from those until that money is exhausted. So we're not even really going after the big pot. We're trying to get our piece of the third. So.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Lisa, you need more direction on that for? All right, let's move on to item number 4, full-time or part-time animal control employees.
Yes, sir, Mayor. As we had our work shop on animal control, coming out of that workshop, the consensus was to make a change in our existing ordinance. And this is a 2-part issue. Number 1, what is the extent of the changes? I've heard no foul whatsoever. And then I heard other comments, simply prohibit roosters.
Right.
So we would like to get a little more guidance on that if you, and the draft has been provided to you by Deputy Chief Cruz. Oh, it's on here.
I didn't have a new draft. The draft that was handed out at the workshop was the one, because I don't think we ever had a clear, I'm sorry. Y'all have to excuse my voice. My head is just really stuffed up. I don't think we ever got clear direction from the council to make the changes to the draft that was handed out at the workshop. So currently, that's the draft, which I think it prohibited roosters, but I think that was all it did. I don't think it addressed the situation with the dogs that Councilmember Christie brought up, or limiting or prohibiting fowl altogether, or chickens, just chickens. So I think that's where we're at. We need to kind of get direction so that we can present y'all with a new ordinance, which is on down in the agenda, but it is tied to this, because if we do that, is my understanding that they'll need additional personnel to be able to enforce that.
The personnel comes into play with the dogs. I don't think it will be as big of an issue depending on what the council does with the roosters and chickens. But if we go with the dogs, because as they stated in the workshop, they were well over 100 currently being maintained on chains, ropes, whatever. And we will need more eyes and more assistance in the kennel itself, because the intake will significantly increase.
Anyone else?
There are only so many kennels. Did I hear that there's 30+ kennels, 32 kennels at the facility?
Yes, ma'am, and, you know, the council authorized and it was expanded 3 or 4 years ago.
Mhm.
And, last week it was at capacity. And you heard Deputy Chief Cruz say they want to be as close to no kill shelter as possible.
Mhm.
But depending on the direction we go, we can try to do more adoption practices. That was one of the things that they had at ICMA, was good practices for animal adoption. And Vice Mayor and I have been talking about these issues with the dogs, and I agree with him. And we just need to step up our enhancement of adoptions, and that's where the kennel aid would come into play.
I feel like we need to have an up and down vote. One on the, I would like to propose that we vote no, that to make Shelbyville no chain city, no dogs on chains. And I would like to have a vote that we vote yes or no for chickens, period. And then, depending on the vote, we can adjust from there, from one extreme to the other. You know, if it goes extreme all, you know, then go, and then we can make adjustments for the people we need to address that outcome.
Can make sense to everyone? Anybody have thoughts about what we need to do? All right, let's move on to number 5, IT policy. Shelbyville Government TV broadcast and streaming policy. Scott? You're not getting a break tonight.
This policy was presented, we had a meeting and discussion on how to best put out the information on the Shelbyville government and Shelby in general. And as the draft was presented, it was real heavy on the government side of it. And I've been working with Councilwoman and our IT director and others for the past several months in building up to our YouTube channel. So the discussion evolved from the government channel, which is being used right now for this meeting and others, but I was pushing heavily, and as was others, for a showcase on Shelbyville type channel. So I'm gonna ask the city attorney to come in with me here, but at the end of the discussion, where it was pretty much was, we need to have two YouTube channels. One to follow their policies and the city's ethics policies and others, and having the government channel. But also to allow us to work with the councilwoman and have the, I can't think of the proper word, but it would be allow her to utilize her talents on behalf of the city to paint the city in the best light possible by some of the work she's already done.
Thank you, City Manager Collins. Let me say this before Ginger dives in, because we can all read, the information that was given to us in our packet. City Manager Collins, it is what it is as far as a government channel. That's not to be, well, I'm confused, but what that sounds to me is that's public education government. That's PEG is what this is pretty much emphasizing on. Everything in it, it's all about government. It's government all the time. And everyone knows that I have been creating programming, which I like to prefer, or to call it, it's more of a news informational type format, magazine format. And so this is foreign. This is something I'm not interested in. I mean, as far as, it's strict, it's driven by a committee, where it's not that serious when it comes to news informational magazine style. Here's what's happening in Shelbyville. And look who's next. It's the Walking Horse Capital of the World CEO. The people that's building the empire of Shelbyville, the Weavers. These are type of programs that I've certainly gotten it in a proposal, plenty of them in my car. So this is foreign, and this is another entity, I think, from what we had began to build and from what I've been doing since 1997. So I don't know what this is all about, but this is certainly not what the set here was designed. I mean, it can serve as multi-purposes, sure. But as far as what Scott and I have been working on, and MTSU and I continue to talk about, it's not the broadcast station. It's not PEG. It's just the informational news. Look who's next on the show, entertainment type thing. When I said entertainment the other day, maybe I'm scared. I'm not having bands. I'm not having, this is not the, Bridgestone Arena. It's what it is. And I just don't think it's that serious where people say too much government in our lives, too much government in this. Stay out government. That is a prime example. When I read there's a committee consisting of, for a little YouTube channel, really? Scott has been taking some time. Oh, Mike is going to do that. Scott has been generous enough to take time to approve all of the small things that I've thrown on this YouTube channel as it is right now. So it has a filter. That's our city manager, and it's approved or it's not approved. So I just don't get, the committee thing. So I'm assuming that's for this government thing where you've also mentioned the committees. There are a lot of committees that meet. We're all on many. There are a lot of committees. I can't understand how.
You weren't part of the committee.
Oh, no, I'm not part of the committee. There's one council member that will be.
Where did they come up with 5 years?
I don't know. I mean, the federal government, I wish I could research that somewhere. I just don't think it's that serious, but that's my opinion. What I do is happy, lucky, go free type informational, everyone wants to know, type thing. So that's my.
There's a problem with that?
I,
Problem is,
the only problem I see with, I'm sorry, Mr. Manager.
No, ma'am.
The only problem that what I do understand is, I'm not sure how the Maryland and Company, or, you know, or they wanted the city seal, that's no problem. I don't care what we call the show. You know, the style of Shelbyville's whatever, this, that, and the other. I'm all for that. What I'm all for also is getting the word out to the citizens. Look what's gonna come up in your city. Look what the celebration has added this year. Look at the beautiful Cooper's Arena, you know, and all of those things. I mean, everyone knows what I do, and it hasn't hurt anybody yet. But being a part of the city stage, city property, I understand that the filtering or sifting needs to maybe step up. But I've just been going under what Scott has recommended, and I know what he's asking me to do. I run around all weekend with the camera, from the car show to the Boo and Brew to, you know, everything up there. And, you know, the pictures, they're coming. I'll send them to Scott, put them in a video, send them to Scott. Those are the type of things that I thought we all understood. But this is a totally different entity. I don't even know. I can't go around filming committees all day. There's millions of them here, you know, and now they're generating another one. So somebody gets to sit on this one, you know.
and you're doing all this out of goodness of your heart.
I am. I
No
mean,
compensation whatsoever.
not from the
We
city.
gotta have a committee.
It certainly won't be from the city. It never has been, and it never will, as long as I'm seated in Ward 2. I can't double dip. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And everybody understands that. Everybody understands that.
Oh, no.
I mean, you got all entities, you got the treasurer here. You see what goes through. I mean, I don't see how that's any confusion at all. But this is totally off the record for me. I just don't understand that. So thank you, City Manager Collins. Maybe perhaps there needs to be two entities of getting our word out as city government.
Yes, ma'am. There's just a couple of minor things that we were concerned about. And one of them was possible, and which you've already said you could readily correct. And that's just ethics policy of using the city brand for self-promotion. And the councilwoman and I spoke a couple of times, and she said that's not an issue. And when we did meet, there was discussions about a totally different channel where we do utilize the hometown talent and experience that we have right now and just make Shelbyville shine. So,
Scott, if I could add in there, when I first met with you back in May, that was your idea to do the committee. It was, I think, you and IT and Lisa to do the committee as far as making certain that you all made sure everything was fair, there was no commercial, whatever. So if you were fine, I know y'all have been working since then, that came back in May. If you want to take the committee off, you certainly can. But what I understood was it was IT's recommendation that we do 2 channels because it will more highlight what she does. Because it will get lost on the government channel will be more the tape of this, the tape of your council meeting. And you wouldn't go and tape any of our committees. We would have to, that was, if in the future we ever get the ability to have an employee that could go tape those committees. And your things, that's what I understood, is because it'll get lost on that government channel. And so have a separate channel that's more highlight the stories and promotion of Shelbyville.
yes, it was more or less like a programming team for a showcase on Shelbyville channel under pretty much your guidance to give us the Craig Campbells, the Keith Weavers, the on and on and on of all the attributes we have.
Yes, but I mentioned to Mr. Mayor and Mr. Collins, I've mentioned to both of you that you all probably need to be recording guests on that set. You know, I do understand Lost in the Shuffle, but these two run the city. They're the head of the city. So I think, as far as government, I think that may be enough dosage for it to.
Just the meetings. Is that what you mean? And then get them on your channel?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, but I just didn't get it, but I do understand lost in the shuffle. But yes,
So is our IT person gonna start doing some of this yourself?
sorry.
Your battery may be dead. That was what was wrong with Maryland's. Her battery went dead.
No, sir. Right now, with our one person IT department, he's gonna be doing what he's doing right now.
So they
and
can phone up right down the clean sheet.
Operating our meetings. Operating our meetings. So, again, we're going to put in protections. Because now this has not happened to this point. But one of the protections was with me but doing solo. What if the councilwoman presented a video that I disagreed with her? But so far we've worked well. And we've already talked about a couple of minor issues that we've already resolved. So if it's the pleasure of the council,
It's your policy.
I'm ready to, let's just keep doing what we're doing. And let's you and I work together and tweak the minor things. And let's get Shelbyville painted in the light that it deserves.
And excuse me, one more thing, and I'll leave this alone. But if I understand the logo, there's a certain type of logo, perhaps the wrong wall or whatever, that's fine. Removing the Maryland and Company away, that's fine, because it's not about me. It's about the guest on the show or the event that's going on in the promotion of this community. So I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on that? Thank you, Councilmember Ewing. Anyone else? All right, let's go to item number 6, annexation request. Tax map 068, parcels 014 and 120 on Union Street. Well, hello, Wally.
We're gonna have a lot of fun there. Good evening all. So we have an application here. If we look at the slide, it's 2 different parcels. One of it is almost like, 49 acres, which is the one here in blue. The other one is a little bit smaller, but it is immediately adjacent to it. It's almost 18.19 acres. So this actually was submitted about 3 months ago. There has been a lot of discussion. And initially, the applicant was asking for annexation with a concept to have what I would characterize as multi-family high density. We were able to work with the applicant just because of our comprehensive plan and the sensitivity of this area. If you look here, all of it has a single family kind of set. So now we are under the understanding that if the council is to defer or refer this to the planning commission, we will get at the same time a zoning application for R2, which is low density, which will be very similar to what we see here.
Okay. Anybody know where that's at? That's off of Jennings Lane.
And Union?
We used to refer to the Tillett houses in behind where Mr. Tillett, those folks used to live. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, everybody aware of where that's at?
And again, this is not related to annexation, but just heads up. What will happen if this is actually being annexed and there's a zoning amendment, which will be followed by subdivision. The main entrance will be coming from Jennings Lane, and there will be a minor one here, but there will be more than one entrance.
There'll be more than one entrance,
Yes,
okay.
that's a requirement as
Okay.
the new subdivision.
Okay. So one of them will be on Jennings and the other one will be on,
You see the small one here, Mayor?
uh-huh,
On Union.
There's a garden gate to the right of it, correct?
Right, that's right.
right. And the other one will be on Union Street?
This is Union, and the other one will be Jennings.
Jennings, that
Yeah,
garden
okay.
gate to the right.
Exactly.
Good.
And
Anybody else have any questions?
I just would
And-
You go ahead. Go
We're
ahead.
voting just to annex it now, right? Annexation, is that what
Yes,
we're doing?
that's what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
With
You-
R2.
Yes, the submission of the zoning amendment, if this is being referred to the planning commission, will be R2, which is low density in the city zoning ordinance.
Okay,
Just to clarify, what your vote next week will be to send it to the planning commission for them to study to annex.
right.
All what I'm doing is just
This,
giving.
this one, you actually have two different annexations on this agenda. This particular one is to go to the planning commission for them to do further study.
But this is the first time we've heard about this, so
This is the first
that's
time.
good, that's good.
And just generally speaking, whenever there's any annexation, what we look at is first of all, the boundary map here
Mm-hmm.
to see if it is within the boundary map or not. The subject two parcel we're talking about are somewhere here, which is meaning basically that in the future, if the city is to annex, where can the city annex?
Okay.
Second thing we would like to look at, so that's mainly it.
Okay.
So what we look at usually, okay, is it in our boundary map or not? If it is to be annexed, what kind of development will be the more compatible?
Any other questions? Everybody know about where that's at? Okay.
I have one question. So are the 700 houses kind of across the road from this?
The 700 one,
That's a swing.
That's a swing.
That's old swing.
No, is that before you get to
Get
Johnson?
four jobs, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
right there, sat down, before you.
This is Mr. Baum or BAUM or something, maybe?
Yeah, that's probably the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Any other questions for Waleed on this? Thank you for showing that to us.
so maybe if I go ahead, the one we're talking about, we did not receive the official application yet. We have been in discussion for over a year, but we should receive it shortly.
Okay. Okay. All right. Waleed's just experienced something. Chief Phillips, he was down in Memphis. How many cars did they knock the windows out of?
35,
35 cars at the hotel where he was staying.
I gotta say.
Isn't that something?
Anybody?
Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
Because you know that happened to the judicial conference one year.
I did do
All the
that.
judges, state judges, yeah.
Wow.
Knock all the windows out?
Oh, yeah, several years ago, the judicial conference.
I can tell you, chief, the police are so used to it, that they didn't need care.
But that would be an experience. Waleed, I'm glad that you were okay. I'm glad you're okay. We put windows in that car. Yeah. All right. Anybody else have questions on that? If not, let's move to the next item.
That's Paul.
Ma'am?
That'll be Paul. I know you think it's Waleed.
Oh, it's not
He's
me,
next up.
Yeah, Paul, yeah,
But
Paul.
it's
I was
actually
gonna
be
call on Paul, the airport leases. Yeah, I just hadn't gotten to that
I
point
had,
yet.
it was not on your agenda. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
But since this is a study session, comments can be made about any item. At the airport authority meeting on Thursday, they approved to recommend 2 new land leases to the council for consideration. And I neglected to put them on the agenda, so Paul's here to talk about that.
Vote.
So, as Lisa alluded to, there was 2 different entities that came to our last airport authority meeting asking for leases on 2 parcels adjacent to the hangar that you probably just saw the completion of, Dr. George's hangar, that is just to the north of our existing T hangars. There are 2 other parcels that are available there, and so they had they requested 2 buildings that will look almost exactly the same. They're 2 60 by 60s, 2 different entities. One is Mr. Andy Stovall. He's actually the owner of A&L Campers, the place out there off of 524. But it is under his individual for his airplane. Then also Azure Flight Support is looking to build another 60 by 60 aircraft. They have a need for more space to not only house some airplanes, but the possibility of working with them to relocate a 135 operation down here to where they can store an airplane there for that. But those would, the standard type of leases that we have, that's been established by the airport authority, which is a 35 cents per square foot price. And the size of the hangar has to be matched by the size of the ramp, which makes it 7,200 square foot each, for a total annual price of $2,520. So each year on an annual basis and based on our time frame, for example, it'll be the 1st of January, they would pay $2,520 for that entire year. And then it goes on for 20 years. And then after that, they have guaranteed renewable for a 5-year. And then after that, it goes to 5 single years for a total of 30. After that 30 years, the city, it turns over to the city. Those hangars become property of the city. We also put in the leases that if for some reason they choose to leave the premises, the city has first right to refusal on buying those hangars.
Okay. No problem on these new hangars as far as that sewer work that we've just done in the airport, all that'll be tied in.
That is correct. Those layouts have been taken into consideration
Okay,
in the
good.
design of the hangar and the design of the sewer. All that was taken into consideration. So they'll easily be able to connect. That's ready to go. And that project is almost complete. There's a couple little small things that they're tidying up right now outside the fire hall. You've probably seen that activity if you've been down 231. But matter of fact, any hangar right now could go ahead and connect to the sewer system and be fully functional.
Good, good.
What's the life unexpected for those things?
Based on current use, I mean, you can look at our Quonset hut. Our Quonset hut was built for World War II. So, but most hangars like that usually run in 50-year time frames. There could be work that needs to be done on the doors or something like that, but usually you get a good 50 years out of that type of metal construction.
Any other questions for Mr. Perry?
Was there discussion on the price? If say they were to leave in year 20 and didn't want, and we got first right to purchase, what would be the purchase price?
Based on existing formulas, it's a fair market value, and there are actually appraisers out there that can appraise hangars. There are companies out there that do those type of appraisals, and that's based on what's been done before, because in most cases, we'd be asking for state or federal assistance on purchasing those hangars, and the state requires a fair market value analysis be done.
Playing devil's advocate then, in year 25, I decide I build the hangar and I pay you $2,500 a year, and and for 25 years I essentially used it up. I'm done. I'd like to get my money back out of it. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna walk away from it at fair market value. That hangar could be worth $500,000, $750,000. I don't know, based on easily double what they're gonna pay for the hangar now, and force the city to pay me that kind of money back.
That's why in the fair market value, that's why there's specific companies that do that, because they take in consideration the fact that you really only has a useful life of about 5 years left. Because if you're pulling out at 25 years.
That's why
They do use depreciation.
Yeah, so they use
I'm
depreciation. to make
playing
sure
devil's
that-
advocate on it now, because I wouldn't, even though we got first right to buy it, I wouldn't want somebody else to come along and snap it up and say, well, I can give me a hangar here for pennies on the dollar too, so the city gets forced out of it.
Yeah. I understand. Yes, that's why they take into consideration the fact that we can say no and they can sit on it, and then they turn around and try to sell it to somebody, and you can only say, well, you've only got 5 years left in the lease.
I was about to say, it's only buying out the lease. They're not buying the hangar.
Oh, there you go.
They're not buying the hangar.
Buying the lease,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna buy the hangar.
So if the city can wait them out, and they know that.
I can wait
So-
them out for 25
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I was playing devil's advocate. I'm glad I asked that.
good question. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Nobody gets the hangar but us. At the end of the day, that's the goal.
I like that answer.
All right, old business, it looks like we need to discuss ordinances, second and final reading and public hearing on new business, I guess. First reading on ordinance number 7 in our agenda, and we'll let Gender handle this, but it's an ordinance to amend the municipal code of the city of Shelbyville related to the city council meeting and the publication requirements. Ms. Schauffer?
Yeah, we talked about this last month, and I'm sorry I didn't get the actual written document to you today. I want to meet with your staff on it. We do have a meeting Wednesday, don't we? We have a staff meeting Wednesday?
Meeting, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So we'll get it pushed out to you Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning. But this is what we've talked about again, changing your publication requirements. And so really the only thing I need to hear back from you is the radio requirement. But after you look at it, you can tell me next week if you want the radio requirement in or not.
Okay.
Because right now, you're still supposed to give all your meeting notices to the radio.
Okay.
We keep it in, it's no big deal if you don't want to.
Okay. We've also, I'll just kind of make this announcement tonight. We've also got, I guess the first issue of the Time Gazette online. So the Time Gazette newspaper may be coming back. We'll just see how it works out. And we've got this Bedford Post, and you're having to post that in everything in the Bedford Post right now. And then I don't know how much radio we do and things like that, but it's on our website. Things are on our website to publicize meetings and things like that.
Do you know if the Times Gazette's going to publish a?
I don't know. Hadn't heard that, yeah.
Right now, a newspaper has to be a paper
Right.
copy,
Right.
technically.
Any other questions or any thoughts on that? Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, number 8, an ordinance to amend the city code of ordinances, Title 3, Animals and Fowls, chapters 1, 2, and 3, to repeal any and all ordinance in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date. Scott?
Yes, sir. We just need to know what the pleasure of the council is. We're prepared to present the ordinance. And if it's simply the roosters, we don't have a price tag connected to it. However, if we want to go with the dogs on chains, we may ask for additional staffing to help with that issue.
Anyone have anything to say on that? I think we discussed it a little bit earlier. Anyone? I think we're getting more complaints on the roosters right now. All right, let's go to the resolutions. Number 9 on our agenda, a resolution adopting a plan of services for an area proposed for annexation. The territory is a 36.83 acre tract of land located, is that lane or land supposed to be? Land, I would think. Located at 1418 Birch Street on the north side of Wartrace Pike and referenced on Bedford County Tax Map 0090. Parcel 122 to be annexed by the owner consent to be incorporated within the boundaries of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, and owned by Robert and Nicole Allison. Waleed?
Hey, Mayor, so this item, which is number 9 and number 10, are actually the same. So any annexation has to have a plan of services and annexation. So I'm just gonna touch on number 9, but also cover number 10.
Okay.
So, Mayor, if you recall, the last meeting, council decided to refer this application to the planning commission. Just a little bit of a reminder here, it's located on the north side of Wartrace, and it's about 36 acres. Currently, it's in the county. And it is within our city boundary map for annexation. So basically, it's about anything that is right here, meaning it's for future annexation, like something that could be considered by the city. So, and
Does
maybe
that border with Hillcrest Drive? It does not, does it?
no, it does not.
Over just a little bit further down Wartrace Pike, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of context. This is Wartrace, and if you see this edge here, that will be where Madison and Wartrace meets.
Right.
So, and maybe Linda is here, she can help me out. I was not here last week. So my understanding when it went to the planning commission last week, there was a split vote. Am I correct, Linda?
Yes, both ways.
Right.
Okay. So I believe there might have been a little bit of misunderstanding. Uh, the point I would like to make clear is when you actually do annexation, it does not mean you can build on it immediately. So what happened is there was no zoning amendment application accompanying the annexation, which means that if this is to be annexed, it will be automatically R1. R1 is the lowest density in the city. And I have another slide for you here. It shows you what R1 is all about. So the minimum lot size in R1 is 15,000 square feet, which is the lowest density the city has. If I compare it to the neighboring homes that are already built, they are between 14 to 19. So 15,000 minimum is compatible with whatever building we have close by. And also it has a minimum requirement that the lot width has to be minimum 100 feet. That's quite large for a city, not a county. I think what happened during the meeting, and I was not here, there might have been misunderstanding about what you can do after annexation. If the applicant, assuming annexation is approved, would like to do zoning amendment, it has to come back to council.
Right.
That was explained to them.
Okay.
That was explained to them.
Okay.
I can give more.
But we,
You can.
and the planning commission voted twice, and they were deadlocked, not zero. And there was no one showed up for it, and there were people showing against it.
Okay. Understood, I get it. I just wanted to make this clear that it's similar to any annexation. So,
I mean, could it be annexed in at R1, then the church person come back and say, no, I want to change I want to change it to R2 or 3 or something?
of course, they can actually apply. It doesn't mean council.
After it's already annexed.
Council has to approve.
Yes,
Yes,
Right.
they can, just like anybody.
that's what anybody else.
Is the power, water, and sewer happy with that?
Okay, so what's gonna happen now? Power, let me show you the power. We have a condition, if you go over the plan of services, if they are to do any subdivision, there will need to be a lot of improvement. So it's not ready even from that point to be subdivided.
And I think that may have been part of the reason why, for those of you that weren't there, we had one planning commission member missing. It's a 9-member board, so we had 8 people, and that's how we came up with the tie. And so the original motion was to send you an unfavorable recommendation. And the vote was 4 for unfavorable, 3 against it, and 1 person abstained. Well, there is a rule in the planning commission that in order for anything to pass, you have to have a majority of those present, not present and voting, present. So there were 8 people there. You'd have to have 5 to pass anything. So that's why that vote did not pass. Then somebody else made a motion to send it with a favorable recommendation, and at that point, it tied 4-4. The person who abstained on the first vote voted for a favorable recommendation. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Y'all come to the planning meeting.
The day while we couldn't be there, it was a lot of fun.
All spending time.
It was supposed to be easy.
I had my own fun too.
All the yellow square subdivisions around it,
Those ones here, actually, some of them are R2.
2.
Yeah, some of them are R2, some are R1. There are some apartment buildings here. I don't know if you.
What about to the left side?
Or Teals, that's.
This one here,
Further over.
here,
Further left.
this one?
Yeah.
It's in between R1 and R2.
You get the way the train goes.
And the ones here, those are in the county as you see, the ones that are. But you can see there's also outside traffic. And just would like to give you a little bit of background. The applicant is here, so the first time this was submitted was over a year and a half ago, and the applicant insisted on multi-family at that point. Basically, it was made very clear that staff would not be able to support this. That's why after all of this time, he decided to apply and keep it at R1, which is the lowest tier of it.
And I think that was a lot of the discussion and thought of the planning commission as well, is concern that, you could bring it in as it is, because there were no comments by Shelbyville Power, I believe, coming in R1. Is that correct?
The comment is, it cannot be subdivided out even out at R1 at this stage, because there needs to be a lot of info.
I don't think that was actually said that clearly at the
Okay.
meeting. It was not said that clearly at the meeting. If that had been said at the meeting, it would have been probably an unfavorable vote. I'm just guessing.
So basically, if it is to be annexed as we speak, there is a house as we speak, that will, until they work a solution out in Shelbyville Power, they cannot even do a subdivision.
Okay.
Any other questions, folks know where that's at? No. Okay, thank you, Wally. Well, Wally, you better stand right where you're at.
Okay, I will sit here.
Yeah, Thomas Baxter, Wally, works with Wally, and he helped us at the planning commission the other night. So you've covered number 10 there too.
Yes, that's
it looks
covered.
like, right?
Yes, I got it.
All right, number 11, a resolution providing the abandonment of the public right-of-way shown on Exhibit A and authorizing the conveyance thereof to the abutting property owner, the Glass Hollow Properties. That's that alley back
Yeah,
there.
that's the alley. That's a fun one. That's an easy one, Mayor.
Okay.
So we're talking about the alley here. I don't know if all of you have seen it.
Yeah.
So it's in between here, and usually what happens is that any abandonment, it goes to council to approve it. So we have a resolution for you here.
Mhm.
And our engineer and public works are okay with this lane being closed because it doesn't serve any purpose. And this is the one we're talking about here. So if you go on Spring, it will be, if you are going up north, it will be on your right-hand side.
Mhm. I took a walk up there on Sunday. They've already got that concreted and everything, don't they?
Yes, they should have waited a little bit, but yes.
Jack, for that.
You got a ramp and all kinds of different things there, yeah. Okay. Anybody have a question about that? Glass Hollow's asking for that.
And we make sure that the Shelbyville Power doesn't have any easement underneath me, so basically it doesn't serve anyone.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you, Wally.
Yes, ma'am.
Number 12, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, authorizing a grant application with the state and local cybersecurity grant program. Lisa?
Mr. Mayor, this is just a grant application. This is actually the first time that I'm aware that we've been able to apply for this. It is a cybersecurity grant that's offered to help with different things. What we're gonna use it for is our firewalls. It's 100% grant. There's no match, and it'll be a $9,000 one. We already have the firewalls, but this will pay us back for that.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Did you say there was no local match?
No, ma'am.
Anyone else? We like those grants where it's 100%. Business items. Purchasing bid items. Number 13 is a recommendation for an RFQ for the wayfinding signage master plan downtown. Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the wayfinding program that we've been talking about. The committee reviewed and determined that FD2S response was the best. And we told them we had very limited money, and they expressed confidence that within our budgetary parameters, they could work out a program for us. So we're going to have more details and present to council for your consideration for a positive vote next Thursday. Thursday after next, November 9th meeting.
Okay. Anyone have a question about that? Signage like signs is telling us where to go and what's here and those kind of things like that, and they'll all be decorative and.
Yes, they'll be very limited this first round because of budgetary constraints, But we should be able to get some on the main thoroughfares coming up off East Lane, Holland and Depot. And then have future plans, because several of you all have expressed, advertising for the celebration and other points of interest in town. But this will be focused on the square.
Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, number 14, award the RFQ for the consultant on the Parks, Trails, and Greenway Master Plan. Mr. Austin?
Yes, this is the Tennessee Health Department's Healthy Built Environment Grant that we received, $50,000. Gary Hale, Councilman Hale, Mary Grace Phillips on the park board, Trevor Freitas and myself interviewed 3 companies. We had 7 companies that submitted RFQs. We interviewed 3 of those. Recommendation is to hire Reagan Smith Engineering to do this work. Working with them right now on the scope, they know that the budget is $50,000, which is the grant amount. And so I'm working with them on the scope. I should have that completed this week and to you.
Okay. Anyone have a question for Mr. Austin on that? Okay, thank you, Mike. Okay, appointments, number 15 is Safe and Affordable Housing Committee, 1 appointment. And Lisa and I discussed that appointment this afternoon. Just not ready yet to make an appointment on that. I have asked council members, and I'll ask any of them that I haven't talked to, that if you've got a suggestion for, we had someone that left that committee. Is that correct, Lisa? Someone?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's
Yeah.
my understanding, someone that can no longer serve.
Okay.
And I believe it is, a representative of the Bedford County Listening Project who's serving on that committee in that capacity, so a replacement would have to be somebody coming from the Listening Project committee.
Okay. Well, if you would get that recommendation to Lisa or myself, and we'll move forward on that. Other business, anybody have any other business? Any monkey business? Announcements? Let's adjourn.